president of Lighthouse Title Insurance Company out in Chesterfield. I've left today on the table over there some ink pens and brochures. One of them is why you need title insurance, because a lot of people don't understand that. It explains that we're regulated by the state and things of those nature. The easiest way to remember what title work is about is that we insure the past, where your homeowners and car insurance insures the future if you get in a car accident type thing. We ensure that no one's coming back to knock on the door and say they have an ownership in your home, and if they do, we're buying, or we have to rectify it. I also put over there rate charts, because I know a lot of people call constantly wanting to know prices, and it's all done by dollar amount, so I made a bunch of quick copies that will help people, and if it's an in-between, always go higher. You know how that goes, never go lower. I've been in the business 27 years. I travel all over the place. I don't let my Chesterfield office fool you because we're on the road more than anything. We try to be very serviceable. We have evening closings and Saturday closings. I do commercial, HUD deals, foreclosures, investments, Tarek. And hopefully it's just going to be another great year. Thanks so much for letting me stop by.
Now, Tony, what if two parties get together and they're going to quit claim a deed, one between the other? Are they still wise, especially the buyer, to seek out your services?
Absolutely. A quit claim deed is strictly that. They're quit claiming whatever interest they have, but they're not telling you that they don't owe anything or that there aren't other people involved who have an interest. I dig up lots of dead wives and divorced wives and people that in the state of Michigan, gentlemen seem to think because he bought it single, even when he got married, she has no claims and now he's divorced her, and that's not true. The minute you say I do, she gets, whether you ever put her name on it or not. That's the easiest way to believe that one. So yeah, even if it's a quick claim between family deals, it doesn't always have to be title insurance. It could be a quick search just to make sure everything's on the up and up. And a lot of times you get $10,000 water bills on property that nobody happened to tell you about, that aren't going to show up unless you do a title exam. Or there could be 2 years worth of redeeming property taxes that nobody told you that it's already been sold back to the county. And all of a sudden you're, and it's too late. It's too late for you to fix to go back on him. You bought the problem. It's all yours. So those are the kind of things to remember. A couple $100 could save you a couple thousand. Yes.
How long typically does it take to get a report back? I know that's, you can have extenuating
My company's
circumstances.
between 2 and 3 days we average. Now, if you tell me you want it out of Florida, it could take me 5 to 6 because we do have affiliates all over. But for Macomb, Oakland, and Wayne, St. Clair, and Lapeer, we're doing 2 to 3 day turnaround time, which I'm very proud of. Yes. I have pens, flyers, chocolate mints up there. They're not as good as that cheesecake back there, but ink pens and things of that nature for anybody who wants to grab anything, and my name's on everything. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Tony.
I am an appraiser. I own Premium Appraisals, and let's let you know what we do. We do appraisals usually for $250. We try to be like the cheapest. We try to cover the most of the areas for $250. If we have to spread out like Flint, downriver, stuff like that, we might tack on a little distance fee, but we try to stay around $250 as much as we can. We do Macomb, Oakland, Wayne. We do St. Clair, Lapeer, Genesee. We try to go all over the place to really, spread ourselves around. We usually always do comp searches first to make sure that the value is there, or at least get as close as we can to the value. Our turnaround times range from, sometimes I can see a property in the morning and get it back later that day, but for the most part, it's within 48 hours. So me and my partner have been together about 4 years now. I've been an appraiser for 5.5 or so. So we're a pretty strong company. Just wanted to throw it out there, especially for all these foreclosures. I can't tell you how many appraisals I've been doing for foreclosures. It's the biggest thing right now is everybody buying them up all over the place. So we do those, they fix them up. We go and reappraise them again, see what they're actually worth after they're fixed up. So we do it all. We do 2 families. It's usually $500 for a 2-family. I got some business cards up there. I can give anybody, if they want a copy of our price sheets and our areas we go. I have copies as well as I'll actually put out there. So if you have any questions or anything like that, just, let me know. So that's pretty much it.
Now, Steve, with the foreclosures that you talked about,
Yes.
are you finding that it's hard to do appraisals and have them really approximate what houses wind up selling for?
If they want an approximate, like after they fix it up, is that saying, if I go there and they, let's say they buy it for, X amount when it's foreclosed, you're talking about if they fix it up, how much will it be worth?
Either way.
Either way.
But
I
assume
mean-
fixed up.
Yeah, if they buy it for, it's pretty easy to tell, from that day right there, what it would be worth. So I can go and I can pull the sales from the area and be like, okay, these are your highest selling sales. So if, you fix this thing up all the way, this is what it's pretty much gonna be worth. And then they can adjust to the fact of how much they have to put into the house to let them know if it's gonna be worth it for them to even buy, Because I run in that time where they'll think they're getting a good deal, but then after they realize what they can only get out of it when it's fixed up, it really make them reconsider if they're gonna throw that off or try to dwindle it down a little more. So,
Steve,
Yeah.
how do you justify on your appraisals if you find comparables around the same street that are, 5 and 10 grand houses and you're trying to get a respectable value of, 60 and 90,000? How do you go about going to different streets, able to get those comparables without, having a bad appraisal or something that's not going to be able to use?
yeah, I mean, what I try to do is I try to always find, the most similar houses. If there's a house on the street, I look into why maybe it's sold for the, dollar amount lower, I just try to go, if I have, the greater amount of sales, let's say 5 sales, but they're all around the area, selling for that 5 or 10 grand more, well then obviously there's some reason of why those on the street sold lower, could have been, a distressed sale, they just wanted it out, but I mean, if I got a bunch of sales right there that are, holding the value, well then that's the value I would come in at, but if there's gonna be a whole bunch of them, that's all I can do is come in at what the market's gonna pay for a property, so, yes.
Do you find that the foreclosures are pulling down the appraisals?
Not necessarily, no. They're not pulling them down. It's everybody dumping their houses that's pulling the market down, Everybody's just getting out. I'm serious. I see this all the time. Like, I've even got people want to refi what they've done from like 05, and I pulled my file from 05, and I do, because I do comp searches on everything before I go out there to make sure everything's there. And I mean, I'm finding values, I try to get the highest values I can, and I'm finding $15,000 sometimes, lower. This was in St. Clair Shores. It dropped 15,000. There's nothing I can do, The houses that were selling, it was a 900 square foot ranch I appraised in 05. And now the 1,500 square foot ranches are selling for that price that I got the appraisal for last time. It was a perfect appraisal too. So it just shows you the amount of dropping, because the 900 square foot ones are now dropped 15 grand lower. So, but the foreclosures don't pull it down because it's not a true arm's length transaction. So you can't use it. And so if I pull up sales and there's a bunch of them that say bank owned and stuff like that, then I just toss them out, because they're automatically not used at all. They don't even want you to use them just because, our appraisal is supposed to be all of them are arm's length transactions, for a ready, willing, and able buyer, stuff like that. So they want you to use sales that the market would pay for.
So the other sellers are just dumping their houses, they're just dropping it.
Yeah, a lot of them are, I've noticed quite a few people moving south. I've actually had friends myself that dumped their house and they moved south, they were out of here. So that's what's really hurting everybody is people going a lot lower just to either get out, they can't afford it, stuff like that, And then people come in and they're buying for less, but it's not necessarily hurting the people that are still up higher, It's just making a deal for the people who are buying the investments if they can turn around and sell it. So but that's another hard thing too, is the selling. Not a lot of sales in 07, that's for sure.
So based on what you're saying, Steve, you would expect that when the dumping slows down, the prices will stabilize and maybe start to go back up? The average price will shoot up?
I would definitely, that's what I'm thinking, and to when that time, when the jobs stabilize and everybody's stable again, so everything starts going back up, I don't know, you got all these statistics saying, 2 to 5 years, who knows, but until these people stop trying to, let their houses go just to get out of them or whatever, it's unfortunate, but that's the way the values keep going. I see it every day, and I try to help everybody else. I kind of, that way I get paid, the mortgage I get paid, everybody gets paid. Even the homeowners are happy if they refinance or sold their house. Everybody's happy, but you can only do so much. what the market's doing. So, but if you can find those deals nowadays, it's definitely time to buy if you got the money for it. So,
How's the appraisal business these days? That's something to go into?
no, I wouldn't go into it if I was you, that's for sure. Tell you what, no, for us it's pretty steady. We got a lot of good clients. You know, we still can pull a lot of work. It goes up and down, you know, but for the most part, I've been seeing appraisers drop out. You know, I've had some passive friends that have been appraisers. They're gone. You know, they're not renewing their license. This July 31st, we're really going to see. You can go online, you know, on the Michigan website. You can see how many appraisers are active, and you just watch it just drop. You know, the numbers they keep dropping out for everybody's inactive or so. But we're still going. So try to keep it that way. You know, at least until it starts going up, then we get real busy. I'll be happy. So,
We'll keep going.
all right, appreciate it.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Beverly Jordan, and I'm a licensed real estate agent with Gold Key Realty. But also, I have 29 years of customer service experience from the call center to training and development to banking. So what I've done in this dry real estate season market is to try to capitalize on my other skill, my customer service skill. One of the things that I'm doing is I'm making myself available to doing training, customized service, either for call centers or even when you just have, like, you know, small business that you have up and beginning to start the business and you want it to get up and running and you want someone to come in and look at some of the things you can do to modify to ensure that you're satisfying and servicing your customer with timely responses. I'd like to come in and take a look at that for you to see what you can do to better service your customer. Now, I know a lot of times what we do, we have same products, but the service is really what makes the difference in the product that you offer. And so what I'd like to do is to come in, as I said before, again, and the other thing that I do is I make that referral contact for those who are looking for wholesale property or bank-owned property. So if you have an interest in any of those areas, please see me, because I certainly aim to be that customer service expert to extend those multi-level services that you're looking for in the customer service arena. Thank you.
Kim Copeland, and I'm representing First Mortgage Corp. We actually have 2 branches here today. If Salvatore will raise his hand. We have another branch here. We have 2 branches of First Mortgage Corp here today. I would be your basic lender. I know there are a lot. How many investors do we have here today?
Okay, nice.
Okay. What I'd like to do is, if you have any questions for me as the lender, I'd rather have a direct dialogue with you rather than sit here and spew what we can do for you. So are there any questions that you had that you would like to be able to ask a lender today from an investor standpoint?
I just spoke with someone that told me that there's a new program out that has that offers 40 to 50-year loans.
You mean 40-year amortization?
Yes.
Okay. That's not exactly new, but is that something you were
Well, it's new to
looking
me,
do?
obviously.
Is that something you were looking to do?
Well, no, but just to know, the various programs that are available, for your client, because sometimes they want more house than 15 or 30-year mortgage can afford. So if they are allowed to spread it out for an additional 10 or 20 years,
That's an option, but if you have a person who's trying to buy more house than they can afford, I just wouldn't recommend that you buy that much house, because you're going to be in trouble if you lose your job, if you get laid off, if you lose your hours. You don't want to be in that situation, and we're seeing that happen a lot in this market especially. I mean, if property taxes go up on you, you're going to be in trouble. So if you're buying a house, typically I would say don't buy a house that's more than 30% of your monthly income. Don't take a mortgage payment on that's more than 30%.
On those 40 and 50 year though, they're not paid, they have a balloon at the end, don't they?
Some do.
Most of them that I've seen as a closer, usually
Most
it's
of them do
a
have
40
a
or
balloon.
50 year amortization with a 30-year balloon.
Yeah, and that's where you see that
They get a
crunch.
pickle.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's good to see.
That's where you see that crunch. That, and you want to be careful with any adjustable rate mortgage, no matter how long your fixed period is, because once it starts adjusting, I find when I see borrowers, they just aren't prepared for how much their payment can jump. And it can be very scary. And like I said, you just don't know where, there's a commercial, I think for LendingTree, that says you don't know where you're going to be when your adjustable rate mortgage starts adjusting, and you really don't. I actually have a client right now who was working. They both people in the home were working, both spouses were working, and then the husband got laid off. And now their rate is adjusting, and they're really hurting because they were not prepared for how much it would adjust based on the fact fact that they assume they would have that income there. And now that they don't, and their rate is going up and their payments are going up, they're very much close to losing their home. So you want to be careful of adjusting mortgages. I know sometimes they can be a little tempting because sometimes an adjustable rate mortgage payment is lower than a fixed payment. But what you have to realize is I think of them as Band-Aid loans, and I try to get my borrowers to understand that that's the way you need to look at them, as Band-Aid loans. Use that 2 years of fixed rate to fix whatever's on your credit that's prohibiting you from getting a fixed rate mortgage, because you don't want to have your rate adjusting on you, because there's no telling where you'll be at the end of those 2 years and if you'll be able to make that payment.
Then having that program in place, under what circumstances is it advantageous to use a 2-year arm? The program should speak on 40, 50 years. What question?
Why would a person do that? Some people just like trying to get the lowest payment possible, but like that woman was pointing out in the title company, that balloon at the end can be a little dangerous. What I would recommend, like I said, is if you're in a position where you're trying to get the lowest payment possible, and if there's something on your credit that you would like to fix in order to get a 30-year mortgage at a reasonable rate, I would say take the 2-year arm. That's when you use the Band-Aid arm. Fix your credit, try to pay off what you can so that when you get ready to refi at the end of those 2 years, and most of the time if people do it correctly, they're able to refi within a year. So at the end of that year, you can refinance into a 30-year mortgage at a reasonable rate. And that way you're not in danger of the adjusting and you have a fixed rate. So you know where you're going to be for the next 30 years. If something changes, at least you can make allowances. Whereas if something changes in your income and your rate starts adjusting up, you're not just saying, okay, well, I need an extra $300 to make the regular mortgage payment. Now I need an extra $500 and I know where the other $200 is coming from. And you really don't want to be in that position. You had a question?
Yes, I do. Going back to the point that you made earlier about the refinance, if a person has an exit strategy already in place, let's say that they go in and they're buying more house than quote unquote the 30% window, and they refinance, but they have a slated time frame in which they're going to sell the property, say it's 3 years or so forth. So now is the balloon, is that an issue? The balloon payment, that's only if you pay the mortgage, if you go through the entire amortization period of 30 to 40, 40 to 50 years, right?
That's something to think about, but what I'm finding is when you have people say to you, for example, you mentioned an exit strategy, especially if you're in this market, that exit strategy is not going to work. Because you may be expecting to sell your home in 3 years, and it may be on the market for 7. I mean, you just don't know, and you don't want to be trapped in something that you can't afford. So what I recommend, just like I said, is I would never recommend buying more house than you can afford. And really think about it. I mean, can you afford this house? And think of it in terms of percentages. If it's more than 30% of your monthly income, I just wouldn't buy that much house. Are there any other questions? Okay. Well, over at
I have one question.
Sure.
Do you know of any companies that have down payment assistance for commercial loans? Offer down payment assistance?
I have never heard of that.
I can answer that question. SBA does. SBA has one for Small Business Association people.
How much do they give them?
It depends on, every other word it depends on. It depends on what it's opening, where the location, how many of them are there already. They'll give you more money if there's less.
Do they have a credit rating requirements?
Not to my knowledge.
What about
I work with some SBA guys and,
Do they have minimum loan payments?
yes.
Minimum loan size?
Minimum, like, I think under $35,000, they don't even want to think about it. It's a waste of paper. But SBA does have a program in a lot of your local lending institutions. I don't know if you have this division or not.
We
but-
don't have a down payment assistance for commercial lending. What we do have, a good niche that we have for commercial lending, especially when you get into commercial units that are like 4 or above units, is no-doc loans, stated income, stated assets. I find that that's helpful for investors, especially if you are already in commercial property. When you have a stated income, you can't really say, you know, I make so much each month or so much each year, but you can, if you can verify your assets, you can go that way, or sometimes they have to do stated income, stated assets. And we do have a program that allows that, and I find that's very helpful for investors.
This is a church, so it wouldn't be understandable.
I don't know too many commercial lenders that let you buy churches. Typically, that's an ineligible property. But if you do, find someone, that's great.
Yeah, I have someone, I just need the money, down payment for
It also, regarding the SBA, it also depends on the purpose of what you're using. And if a nonprofit is attached to it with a purpose that's advantageous as it relates to HUD, whether it be for a minority group,
Community development or
whether it be for a
something.
certain community, whether it be for the handicapped, whatever the case may be.
Okay.
There are loans for that.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
Women only? Women only staff? The whole staff is only women?
Yeah.
Were there any other questions?
That's good information.
Over on the table over here, my associate Monique, she has some purchase applications. If you are looking to do some purchasing and you'd like to see exactly how much you can get approved for commercial or primary houses, also commercial lending, we have applications over here. And I don't know if my associate, I know they have cards. You guys have cards also. Do you have applications also? Okay. So if you want to stop by and see how much you can get approved for, then just stop by either one of the tables. Okay. Thank you.
I just want to introduce myself. I'm Sal DeLisi. I also have a branch of First Mortgage Corp. We specialize, my business is in inner city development, helping people get loans for, especially on investment properties in the city of Detroit. Able to structure these deals with, down payment assistance, depending on what your buyers have. I mean, I can come on in, we can sit down, we can go over the paperwork, find out what they qualify for, what they don't qualify for, and, we need a fixed credit, that type of thing. So, I mean, any deals you have, my card's on the table, I'm able to sit down with you guys personally, go over everything in detail, make you guys feel warm and fuzzy, and hopefully we can get a deal put together. In regards to some of the things we're seeing down in the city right now, they're really going block by block to on our appraisals. That's why I brought Steven with me today. He's a great appraiser. He'll come out and do appraisal for you guys on a drop of a dime. I mean, seriously, if you order today, he'll have it to you tonight. That's the type of business he does. We work with Tony at Lighthouse Title. She turns our titles in quick. I mean, you guys wouldn't believe the type of turnaround time you guys get. Professional service, closings at your house, after hours closings, that type of stuff. So we kind of got everything covered in regards to that. I can get you guys set up and, going in the right direction. Just depends on what you guys want to do. But especially on the inner city development, if you're looking to get in investment properties, I can kind of, show you how I do it. I'm an investor in the city. That's where I have my assets, and I can, kind of show you guys how to, use as little money out of pocket to, obviously make the most, the biggest bang for your buck. So, anybody have any questions?
Contractor and also a landlord. I've been a landlord since I was 19 years old, so we offer services from board up to whatever needs to be done to a property, right from A to Z, including building. Built 31 houses from the ground up. Worked for corporations like Kmart and U-Haul, so I've been around. I know how to cut corners. The corners need to be cut, so I'm not afraid of things like that. And I did sell real estate for 8 years, so that's how I ended up in this mess with too many properties. I won't tell you the story of too many wives and how they ended up landlords on their own. But yeah, we didn't get anything done you basically need done. We've got all the licenses in one spot, so it makes it kind of convenient. You can call one place and deal with one person, get the work done, and basically, we can get you estimates probably within a week. We're kind of busy right now. We got a lot of projects going on with numerous management companies, and basically almost have a crew back out on the site within a week usually. Try to keep all these guys going. I just bring in crews from Lansing and Flint right now, so don't be afraid to give us a call. Got a good reputation. Been doing this 29 and a half years, so look forward to doing some business with you. Question?
Got a card?
Yeah, I got cards. I'll leave them over here. Bud Egan. It's like the beer you drink. Or, well, maybe you did in the 60s. I don't know.
But now you said you're a landlord. Are you buying, selling, or just holding still?
Oh, you're ready to start buying again. Actually, I like to start building again. That's what we did here in Detroit. I think Detroit's going to be a good investment in the next 10 years. Although I've been investing in Detroit for a long time, so I always knew it'd be a good investment down the road. I think it's headed back towards the direction Atlanta and all that is right now. And I think the window's getting smaller and smaller, to be honest with you, right now. I don't think that, it's going smaller because I think the property values are gonna go in this direction fairly soon. So if you go into the right areas right now, and I know these guys are, certain people in this room are, you sit on it for a minute, I think you're gonna end up with good profit ratio right there. And I see it day to day because I'm all over in the city. I was just all over today. You see everything that's going up, and then you see this new thing that's on WJR right now, dual nation destination. They're working in Wayne County's working with Macomb County, Oakland County, and Windsor right now. This is that new campaign. If you've been listening to the radio lately, they just came out with this beginning of the week. So I listen to WJR all the time. I get a lot of good tips there, but I already knew it, you know. I was dating someone down in Atlanta for a couple of years, and I watched that place blossom. I see the same thing coming here real quick, so I think it's just a short amount of time, and I'm seeing it in various areas, these red line districts or whatever they call them here in Detroit. This stuff's just going up in value. I think it's going to surpass what's in the suburbs, to be honest with you. I think it's in my lifetime yet, hopefully. So. I know these guys got a lot of good properties over here in Detroit. You could probably liquidate, put in your hands, Tarek over here. So I've been doing a lot of work for him lately, and I can't get them done before he's already got them sold. People out of state are flying in buying them, so that's telling you something right there, I think. You know, people from out of state are going to start becoming interested in the city. You're going to see things blossom. I grew up with the Illiches, and you see what the Illiches are nowadays. They invested their money in the city, and basically, I don't care who the mayor is, may as well say he is, you know. I think his money goes a little bit further, so I don't know. I think it's a good city, and it's going to be a good comeback. It's going to be a great place, especially with this new thing going on, this dual nation destination stuff. I think it's a good thing, because you've never seen Wayne County or Macomb County or Oakland County ever. Now they've got it. They really want to improve everything down there, and they got to build it out in a nucleus. They're going, it's almost like an arrow, east-west, straight up Woodward, so, you know, they got a couple areas back right now, so. Good luck with everything, and hope to do some business with you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is April Davis. I'm the president of Breakout Marketing Group. My office is located in Livonia, and what I do is I help small businesses contact their target audience, whatever that might be, either in home or in business, and actually help you get exposure if that's what you're looking for, or move products and services. I also host 2 television and radio talk shows, 88.1 on Thursdays and 1290 out of Ann Arbor. And what I do is I interview business owners and people in the community who have concerns about how to promote their business or projects. And marketing and advertising and promotion is one of the most important things that you want to do in your business. And that's some of the things that I teach people on a daily basis. Some of you may have already heard some of our shows before, and we'll be doing more. But again, my name is April Davis. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have regarding marketing. And this weekend, some of you may have gotten emails that there's an empowerment cruise on the Princess Riviera at the waterfront, and it talks a little bit about the health empowerment for women. So if any of you are interested in connecting with more people, this is my first time here at this event, and my objective is to increase my financial intelligence, like Robert Kiyosaki says. So I'm learning how to have more things in my asset column, but once I get those things in the asset column, I want to be able to buy assets to pay for those things that I want. And so learning how to do that takes skills and abilities, and it takes an ability to negotiate and understand what the market is. So that's why I'm here today. Thank you for listening. April Davis, I have to start.
Okay, we're going to have, we've got a couple of speakers this evening. I've got Mr. Ken Scott from Candler, Scott & Wallace. And Ken is a real estate broker. And Ken is going to talk a little bit about how to take your property, your investment property, and have it become an owner-occupied property. And in this age and stage that we're in, many people are looking for ways to convert their product or convert their inventory into something other than just a traditional flip, because that's not always out there, or a traditional rental, because the numbers don't always work, especially with the prices going down and renters having more to choose from, and and being fickle and moving from house to house and so forth. So just being creative, being innovative is something that this market is really calling for. And Ken is going to talk about how can we take those properties and create situations where individuals are coming into the properties, actually taking ownership of the properties, and creating win-win situations, not only for the buyers, but also for the sellers, so that everyone is making money. Ken?
Like Mark stated, I'm a realtor, I'm a real estate broker in the Detroit area. Been a real estate broker for a short period of time, been a real estate agent for 9 years. Been the former president of the Detroit Association of Realtors. Referring back to what Bud stated earlier, this is an absolute gold mine. Detroit is an absolute gold mine at this point in time. As a person referenced it this morning at a forum that we were at, you don't buy high, you buy low, because the objective is to make some money, to make a profit. You can't get in a more lucrative situation than you are in today. There are properties ranging from 0 on up, literally, in every facet of this city. One of the things that we do, and my corporation or company is a buyer agency company, meaning that we only deal with buyers, whether they be investors or whether they be primary homeowners. But the emphasis is on primary home ownership. One of the reasons we chose that method was because we realized that there were so many people in need of the counseling aspect of home ownership. I have been a counselor with Detroit Home Ownership Counseling Collaborative, and our motive was to make sure that people got in a home with as less hardship as possible. What that does for you as an investor is turn that property over as quickly as possible, because you're going to buy low. They want to buy from you. In a lot of instances, you don't even have to repair the property. They are willing to take on the responsibility of buying the property from you at this point. One of the other things that we chose to do was point out down payment assistance programs to the various buyers. Okay, if that buyer can buy your property at a very, very greatly reduced price, you make money off of it, they get into a home that has less hardship as possible, then we all win-win. We move property. We have a number of people that are in our pool of buyers at this point in time that are seeking home ownership for the right property. That right property, in some instances, could be a fixer-upper. That right property could be a property that's within the guidelines of HUD, but at the same time, no one pointed that criteria out to that buyer, so that buyer can take advantage of it. You have down payment assistance programs, like I said, that are HUD oriented, that can give a buyer anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. That's if the property meets the certificate of approval from the city of Detroit. How many of you know what that is? By a show of hands. Okay, the certificate of approval from the city of Detroit states that the property is in habitable circumstances, meaning that that person can move in with whatever rehab that you've done in it, move in and attain that property. Some of the guidelines are that that property be in existing condition under $108,000. Most of the properties that you acquire and most of the ones that you fix up with the rehab money are well under $108,000. Okay? The other thing about the down payment assistance program is that it must meet the certificate of approval. Certificate of approval, like I stated, everything's okay. Go ahead. Pardon me? ACR? No ACR. ACR is affidavit for compliance of responsibility, meaning that it cannot be an as-is property it cannot be waived, the inspection cannot be waived. The City of Detroit requires a pre-sale inspection. That pre-sale inspection must take place prior to any property being transferred or transferred. If that property has a pre-sale inspection and you all have done the necessary work to bring that property up to code, then that property, as long as it meets under the 108 guideline, 108 grand guideline, then that person can receive anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000, depending on their financial situation. They can receive that money to buy that property. Okay, any questions regarding that at all?
Question.
Yes.
What type of, what is the minimum credit score a person needs to have to take advantage of that?
Okay, you can go one of two routes. You can go conventional, of which everyone is accustomed to at this point in time, unfortunately. Or you can go FHA. If you have brought the house up to code with certificate of approval, that house can go FHA. Okay? But you have to bring it up to code. So, in that instance, it can go two ways.
So what would be the minimum for conventional and FHA?
Chances are, you're talking, people have gotten into homes in 550 and above, which is really kind of, there's a big difference now. Where people weren't getting into homes before, they can't do it now. They can't do it now. But at the same time, that 580 with the city's monies from HUD can allow a person to get in that home now. Okay, that's the program is called American Dream Down Payment Initiative. Only certain entities can utilize that funding. Okay, LaSalle Bank is one, Fifth Third, Flagstar, Town Mortgage, who else? National City, and one more. I can't think of the other one. But they can utilize that funding, which is supplied by HUD, to the City of Detroit in order to acquire property within the City of Detroit's limits. Yes?
What was the name of that program again?
ADDIE, American Dream Down Payment Initiative. One last thing about this program, they must go through housing counseling. And that's, about a 6-hour class? The other thing about getting into a program like this, there are tax incentives in Detroit for you to buy within certain areas. Okay? It's called the Neighborhood Enterprise Zone. The Neighborhood Enterprise Zone affords, as it relates to the city, as they state, they say 26, I say 25, because I group one together, or two together. The Neighborhood Enterprise Zone supplies a tax credit, or a tax reduction, excuse me, of 18 to 35% if you buy within those 25 areas or 26 areas for 6 to 15 years. So if you're an investor and you don't know where to invest, then you have an opportunity to invest in one of those areas that can not only help you as far as fixing up the property, but at the same time moving the property, and also be a benefit to the buyer in the sense that they are receiving a tax credit or a tax reduction. I keep saying credit, but reduction. Okay? And there are 25 areas now, and there will be 25 more areas in August of this year. Okay? Anyone have any questions on that? Yes. Yes, Miss.
How do you learn or find out which areas are currently have the tax deduction and which areas will have the tax deductions in August, the additional 25 areas?
The 25 areas have yet to be announced for the future 25, but as it relates to the ones that are already established now, come see me.
Done.
I'm sorry. Excuse me. Aren't we here to make money?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right, anyone else have any questions? Yes.
Do you, for your services, do you operate on a retainer or do you charge at the closing, or how do your fees work?
Depending on my conversation with the individual.
Okay. And the second question is, if you discover, is it possible, what if I find out I'm living in one of those
Neighborhood enterprise zone.
neighborhood enterprise zones?
Okay, the good thing about the neighborhood enterprise zone also is that once you've realized ownership, or a person's realized ownership after 1998, that person can physically take the deed down to the assessor's office. No, not the assessor's office. 804, room 804 of the city county building, along with receipts of $500. As long as they live within those areas, they can get a deduction off their taxes. Now that $500 receipt can either be lawn service, it could be snow removal, or whatever the case may be. But as long as that person presents that deed as well as that $500 receipt, that person can get a reduction in their taxes, anywhere from 18 to 35% for 6 to 15 years. So instead of your forces being all over the place, you can direct your sources or your resources to an area that's going to be of a win-win situation for not only you, but the buyer as well. Yes?
And that applies to investors as well as homeowners?
No, it doesn't apply to investors.
Only to homeowners?
Only to homeowners.
Okay.
Okay? I'm glad you stated that. Anyone else? Now another thing.
You got a question over here.
Yes, I'm
Is that
sorry.
tax break transfer from homeowner to homeowner? If they resell it within, say, 6 years?
Very much so. Very much so. It's 6 to 15 years.
Right, well, I'm just saying,
Right.
like, if they sell it early and then a new homeowner
It
buys
is
it.
transferable.
That's awesome.
It is transferable.
For the balance, or they get a
For the balance. Okay. The other thing about rehabbing is this is something that my agency has gotten really accustomed to over the last few months and really dedicated ourselves to, is I don't know if you all know of the loan called FHA 203K. Anyone raise their hands if you know? Okay. So you know it can be of benefit to the purchaser. How it can be of benefit to the seller is you don't have to do all of the work that's necessary to bring the property up to code. When a person walks through a home, they're looking at all of the amenities, the sizes of the rooms, as it relates to the needs of their families. Okay? You, as an investor, may do some rehab, but at the same time, sometimes we waste efforts doing it our way when we could have done it the buyer's way. The buyer has a certain customization, certain remodeling that they want done in a home in order to make it their home. You can do that with 203K. 203K will allow you all, or the buyer, excuse me, to fix up the roof, put new windows in, put new doors in, put new kitchen in with appliances, put new bathrooms in, put a finished basement in, put a 2-car garage. So what you're doing is basically flipping the property to the buyer. The buyer is going to be the recipient of, in some cases, the tax credit, also of a home that is so greatly reduced that they can add the rehab to it and make it a home that they will enjoy, that meets the needs of their families. Sometimes you all can't do that as investors, but at the same time, you all have the property. That's where you all come in. You're making money on volume transfer, okay? Like any investor getting into the business, your volume is very important, but the transfer of that volume is even more important. Mark you? No. Oh, I thought you were reaching for something. Okay. As it relates to the rehab, that person can reestablish that neighborhood as a viable entity again. If you direct your energies in one dense area, one that is receiving the benefits, one that has good housing stock. And I don't know if you all know this, but Detroit has some of the best housing stock in the world.
Yes.
Okay? Doesn't always have the best well maintained. But at the same time, if the housing stock is there, you have something to work with. And if you have something to work with, then that individual is more than likely willing to invest in that area, like you invested in that area. So, do you have any questions? Does anyone have any questions? You raise your hand?
Your cards are...
Oh, they're on the... Yes, Mark.
Ken, how much have you seen this in action? Have you really seen it enable investors to move properties faster and create that volume by taking advantage of some of the things you talked about?
Very much so. Very much so.
So you've seen it working?
Very much so. One of the things that we choose to do, and I've gotten together with the 2 agents that I have in my office, we created a homeownership boot camp. Okay? Let me explain homeownership boot camp. I've been counseling people since the day I started real estate, because you're taking them from nothing and getting them to invest in their future, in their home. But one of the things that we find more than not is the fact that people aren't credit worthy at this point in time. They are not credit worthy. What used to work in, say, 1 or 2 years ago with I can get you credit, no money down, bad credit, no credit, doesn't work anymore. And it works against you all because you want to flip the properties. But the only thing you can do is rent the properties. We want to create an environment where you can have the properties bought directly from a ready, willing, and able buyer. Okay? We know that that's not going to happen overnight. So one thing we're doing is creating this 6-month boot camp where we take people through the process, walk them through, coach them through, to the point where their credit score is somewhere around 620. What we like to do is say, we like to lower your debt to income ratio, raise your credit score, therefore, or thus increasing your buying power. Right now, if you're waiting for somebody to buy your property, you're spinning your wheels. Detroit right now is somewhere between 55 and 60% rental. But at the same time, throw in there the layoffs, the buyouts, the abandonments, the foreclosures, the bankruptcies, the arms, and a few underlying factors that I failed to mention, but I'm sure you all know about it because everybody has a different story to tell. But if all those factors are true, then Bud is right to a certain extent that the market's got to change. The question is when. And if you all have the properties and all these incentives are out there for people to buy and they're still not buying, they're still not credit worthy, we want to get them in a situation where they can move on your properties and create an owner-occupied or primary ownership within the city of Detroit again. Believe me, that works in your favor.
Can I say something, Ken?
Yes, bud.
See, when I sold real estate, I was selling real estate back in the 80s. I don't know if anybody remembers back then, it was 18 and 19%. It was definitely a buyer's market. That's when I was purchasing real estate. I ended up with quite a few assets. But at the same time, being a rookie salesman, I was also the second top sales associate in St. Clair County. I learned one thing. I'm there to feed my family. It's no different than anyone to use. And I either double dip properties or I look for the ones with sales associate bonuses on them. And I believe even here in bad times, I just sold one over on Rutherford for $70,000. And I've never held a piece of property in good or bad times longer than 48 hours. Because when you list with a company, I'm going to be honest with you, from selling real estate before, you've got those people in that office that are trying to push that because the broker's getting 1/4 of the listing, selling broker gets 1/4, sales guy that lists it gets 1/4, the guy that sells it gets 1/4. He's working for himself basically underneath the pretext of a broker. What I've always done is if you want to make money, you got to give some away. I make my properties cosmetically perfect, enhancing to somebody. And that neighborhood over there had a lot of boarded up properties, and I got the exact appraised value for it, but I always put a $2,000-3,000 sales associate bonus on there. So that thing hits the MLS, every company's out there working for you instead of just unfortunately the one you list with. So that's just my take on it, but I've been able to sell them good times, bad times, no matter what. But I do, Tarek will tell you, he thinks I go overboard, but then I do that being a contractor too, but there's ways to do it and still keep the cost down. But if you bring your property up to a good position, they don't have to do any work. They're moving in an older home that they enjoy and that they can afford, and they have to do no work for 20 years. It's a win-win situation, I think. Your guys are going to go out and work a lot harder if they can see a $2,000-3,000 sitting there. They're going to drum up everybody's got that little bit of money or FHA or whatever. They're going to take them over there and sell that place. We're going to sell somebody else's with the inventory that's around here. If you're looking to get higher amounts of money out of the property. So that's just my take on it. But honestly, I've owned a lot of property, given a lot away to my ex-wives, and they do the same thing I do. They've listened to me. And, you know, it works. I really believe it. So it takes some money to make money. And then as far as what you're talking about there, I never declare my own home as a homestead. The next one I'm planning on selling is my homestead. 2 years later, it gets sold so I can bypass that capital gain. You get that capital gain exemption when you're 65 anyway. So that's the one I plan on when I'm 65. Along the way, every 2 years I got a property that I want to get rid of. So you can take advantage of what you were talking earlier about this 35% tax break, everything. So that sounds like a win-win thing right there on one property every 2 years at least. And you got that one set up over a 2-year period to go ahead and renovate it, have it ready for sale, ready to give the real estate guy a little extra money. Goodbye. Go buy another one, turn it into 2, 3, 4, whatever. So, just my own thinking. But I agree with everything you've had to say so far. So.
One of the things that, two pieces of advice. Instead of spreading yourself thin, create a, what do you call a planned development. What I call a planned development is that you pick whatever the main street is, you pick 4 main streets to work within. Because in every area of the city, there's a house or 2 houses or 3 houses or 4 houses in a block. Okay? The best thing you could do if that neighborhood is sustainable is if it's showing stability, if it has a good housing stock. And if you come see me and I tell you where the neighborhood enterprise zone is, then what you're doing is rebuilding that area, whether you know it or not. But at the same time, you're increasing your volume, you're increasing your profit as well. And the last thing, whatever you do, do not list it at the highest market value that you can list it at. Okay? The market is not going to sustain. If you can, over the purchase of the as-is property and the rehabbing of that property, if you create a profit margin just above that, that's comfortable, move that property and you won't be sitting on as many. And if you can't move that property now, given the neighborhood that it's in, or whatever the factors are, turn it over to a property management company. Don't let it rest with you. Sometimes it's good for the renter not to know where you are. Okay? Sometimes it's best to turn it over to a company that can run everything for you, account for all expenses, and allow you to be free and clear to move on without having the burden of doing all of the accounting, all the responsibilities for maintenance and what have you. Have a property management company fix that property up. That's it. I thank you for your time. If anyone have any questions?
Your boot camp, how much does that cost and when is the next one?
Right now, we're running it through a HUD-approved counseling agency. So for those individuals that want to take part in it, it's free of charge if they have a family, and if it's low to mod, or whether they just want the counseling, period. Because sometimes it's just advantageous to get the knowledge, okay? If they have the knowledge, then chances are they're gonna retain that home. They're not gonna tear it up or let it, the maintenance go down on it. But at the same time, you're building communities whether you believe it or not. And we have a responsibility, whether we believe it or not, to make sure that all this is working in our favor. Because if you're buying a property and that person is, you're buying a property and flipping it to a homeowner, okay, then you're creating stability in that community. But if you're buying it and flipping it to an investor, then the only thing you're doing is transferring hands. And it's not causing any benefit to the community at all. So, Mark, do you have a question?
No, that's it for now.
Yes, sir.
Do you find there's a shortage of good property management companies in the Detroit market itself?
Absolutely not. You just have to know who they are. And you have to interview them like you would interview me. That's it. Thank you very much.
What kind of things should you be interviewing for?
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
You indicated that you just need to know who the good management companies are. You need to interview them. What kind of specific things would you be looking for to determine one being better than the other?
First and foremost, the history. Second, the rapport that you have with that individual or that company. Third, get some references.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.